The much-awaited wildcard round of the NFL playoffs has finally come to a close, in which 6 incredible games were played, where 6 teams are going to be moving on in the playoffs, and 6 teams were forced to go home. And there are many takeaways from the games on how teams will do in the future, and which teams will be able to make a run in the playoffs. So today I'm going to be giving you guys an NFL wildcard round recap. What's up everybody, it's AC Analysis, and like I said in the intro, today I'm going to be talking about the biggest takeaways and a recap of the NFL wildcard round. And there were 6 incredible games this weekend that I hope all you guys had a great time watching. But there were some major takeaways about the future of NFL teams and how far some teams will make it in the playoffs, based off of the wildcard round. But before we get started, if you guys enjoy consistent football content like this, liking and subscribing would be really helpful. We're on the road to 100 subs now, and every sub helps. And the shoutout for today's video goes to Owen Sports YT. He makes a cool variety of NFL content, and you guys should really check him out. And now with that being said, let's get right into the video. To kick off the wildcard round, we had the second-seeded Buffalo Bills versus the Indianapolis Colts. And this game was expected to be a great game since the Colts were also had one of the strongest defenses in the league, while the Bills had the most high-powered offense with Josh Allen and All-Pro Stephon Diggs. And the final score for this game was 27-24, the Bills won. And the Colts were their worst enemy in this game, since they did go for it twice on 4th down in the red zone, and missed them both times. And if the Colts even just kicked a field goal once, they would have tied. And then their kicker, Rogrito Blankenship, also missed a 50-yard field goal. But one thing we can take away from this is that the Colts have a very bright future ahead of them. The main question for this team is, what will their quarterback situation be, since Phillip Rivers is expected to retire soon. But once he retires, they're either going to pick up a quarterback like Deshaun Watson off of free agency, or draft a quarterback. And if they draft a quarterback, he's going to be put into a great situation, with people like Jonathan Taylor as their rookie running back, Quentin Nelson on the offensive line, and T.Y. Hilton, along with one of the strongest defenses in the league to help back the quarterback up. So whoever comes in will have a great time with the Colts, and if they can get a solid quarterback, they'll be a real contender and one of the biggest threats in the AFC to possibly make the Super Bowl. As for the Buffalo Bills, they have proved that they are real playoff threats, and Josh Allen, in his first playoff start, had a great game with 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they will have a tough schedule ahead of them, playing against the Ravens, who I'll talk about later, but they put up a great performance against the Tennessee Titans. So the Bills will have a tough road ahead of them, but if they can keep this up and Josh Allen can keep playing how he's playing, there's no reason that the Bills can't make it any farther in the playoffs. For the first NFC game, we had the 11-5 Los Angeles Rams playing against their division leaders, the 12-4 Seattle Seahawks. And most people said that the Seahawks were going to win this game since they were a very strong team, and the Rams actually had their starting quarterback Jared Goff out with a thumb injury, causing John Wolford to have to come in as the starting quarterback. And Goff was actually all suited up for the game and ready to play, but no one really expected him to play. Until in the first quarter, John Wolford, the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, took a gruesome head hit from Jamal Adams, which definitely should have been a foul, and was actually sent to the hospital, while Jared Goff was put in at starter, and he did his job with 155 yards and 1 touchdown. But that was not the strength of the team in that game. The real strength was Cam Akers. The star running back for the team was really stepped up this year. He had 131 rushing yards on 28 attempts for 1 touchdown along with 2 receptions, having a great game and really carrying this team on his back for the playoff win, along with the defense. The defense for the Rams were really able to shut down, and especially Aaron Donald, who had 5 sacks on Russell Wilson. So what we can take away from this for the Rams is that they can really play well against good teams like the Seahawks. People doubted them coming in, especially with Jared Goff, but it shows that the defense is as strong as it used to be. Aaron Donald is not done, and Cam Akers is the future of this team. And their wide receiver core is also solid. They might want to get some few pickups there, but they are doing just fine. As for the Seattle Seahawks, they have a lot to think about coming into this offseason. Russell Wilson started the season very hot, seeming like a surefire MVP candidate. But then something has changed since then, and it's mainly the offensive linemen. The linemen had some major injury problems, and they let up 5 sacks to 1 player in Aaron Donald. So it's almost like how it was 2 years ago, in which they can't get anything going. They have star wide receivers, a good running back, and a great quarterback. If they can pick up a good offensive lineman in the draft to help really solidify that offense, they can stay dangerous as they always are. But we will see how they do in the future. The Rams will have a tough match playing against the Green Bay Packers, but I think that if they play like how they did last week with their defense, they have a chance of shutting down Aaron Rodgers. But we will see what happens. This game should be good, or the Packers will just blow out the Rams. The third game in the NFL wildcard round was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the NFC East leaders Washington football team. And as expected, the Buccaneers were ahead pretty much the whole game, even though it was close with the final score being 31-23, the Buccaneers won. And usually the strength of the Buccaneers is their passing game with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. And the strength of the football team is how they can stop the running game and how they can get to the quarterback. But this game was different, as the main strength for the Buccaneers this game and their real win condition was how well they were able to run the ball, with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette finally playing like a real two-headed monster. Jones ran for 78 yards and a touchdown, while Fournette was the main star with 100 yards and a touchdown along with 4 receptions for 36 yards. So they both played a great game, and the Washington football team already has a lot to think about before they go into next season. But the main thing they can take away is that they might have a quarterback now. They had to have a backup quarterback. Taylor Heinicke, I might have said that wrong. He's a quarterback that never really played in the NFL, but this game against the Buccaneers in the playoffs, he was forced in and ended up getting 306 passing yards and 1 touchdown to 1 interception. So this might be a fluke, but he might actually be the future of the team. We do not know. But they also have to get some things sorted out on the defense and help build around players like Chase Young. But as for the Buccaneers, they are forced to play against the Saints in the divisional round. And the Saints are no easy matchup, especially with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas back, but they definitely have a good chance. And they've also really shown this game that their offensive line, one of the best in the league, is really strong, along with their passing game that can really kill any team, especially with Antonio Brown stepping up recently. So the Saints and Buccaneers game should be another great Tom Brady versus Drew Brees duel. The first wildcard game for the NFL on Sunday were the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens playing against the 11-5 Tennessee Titans. And everyone thought that this game would be great, especially since the Baltimore Ravens are on a 5-game winning streak, and last year the Titans actually beat the Baltimore Ravens as underdogs and ended up going to the AFC Championship game. And people believed that the Ravens were underdogs coming into this, but this was a great game for the Baltimore Ravens. They were able to have a great offensive attack in the running game, and they were able to shut down Derrick Henry for a number that I did not see coming. Derrick Henry had 18 rushing attempts for 40 yards, averaging 2.2 yards per rush. Calais Campbell, Matthew Judon, and Marlon Humphrey were really able to get to the guy, which was absolutely incredible. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they didn't get too much in the passing game, but the running game was the real threat. Lamar Jackson had 179 passing yards for 1 touchdown, and he rushed for 2 touchdowns with 150 rushing yards, really showing that he can actually win a playoff game, since there's been this whole thing around him for the past year that he can't win a playoff game. And he finally proved everybody wrong by showing this impressive performance. They didn't put too much points, but the defense really stepped up. And they're going to be having to play against the Buffalo Bills next week, which is never an easy task. But because of this momentum, I think that they really have a chance. And I even made a video saying that they can make it far in the playoffs and beat the Titans. And some of you guys didn't believe me, and they just beat the Tennessee Titans. And they have a good future ahead of them, and next season they can keep building around Lamar Jackson. And what I really think they should get in the draft is another good wide receiver. Marquise Brown is good, but they need someone else that Lamar Jackson can rely on. As for the Tennessee Titans, they're still a great team, and they did have some injury problems, but they really got to get that defense fixed up, man. I mean, everyone knew that the defense was the weakness of the team coming into this week, and the defense was really exposed, mainly by Lamar Jackson. So Tennessee Titans, hopefully they draft, I'm guessing probably someone on the defensive line, but we will see. And the Baltimore Ravens versus the Bills should be an incredible game. For the next Sunday game, we had a game in which the Chicago Bears played against the New Orleans Saints. And everyone expected the Saints to win, and they did end up winning 21-9. And the Bears pretty much played as expected since they were an 8-8 team, and they couldn't get anything going. Mitchell Trubisky really had no help around him. They had multiple drops, including a flea flicker dropped 50-yard touchdown that could have really put them in this game. But the main takeaway from this game is that the New Orleans Saints are a serious team. Their defense was able to shut down David Montgomery, who averaged over 100 yards and a touchdown in the past 5 weeks. And they shut him down to only 31 rushing yards, averaging 2.1 yards per an attempt. As for the Bears, I do believe that Mitchell Trubisky might be the future of the team, but they really need to build around him, and Allen Robinson most likely will leave in free agency, so they should pick up a wide receiver in the draft, or at least help out that defense, since Drew Brees ended up throwing for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Alvin Kamara had 100 yards and a touchdown, and Michael Thomas had 100 yards and a touchdown. So if the Bears want to have a successful future, they need to really help build around that defense, which is usually so strong. And they need to really help the offensive side of the ball, since right now I don't really see them going much places with their offense. And for the Saints, they have a tough matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who did just beat the Washington football team. But I really see that there is a good chance that the Saints do beat them. And this is Drew Brees' last season, and this might be Tom Brady's last season, we don't know. So this game could get very interesting and will definitely be very good to watch, but we will see what happens. The final wildcard game were the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cleveland Browns, and coming into this game, everyone expected it to be really good, especially since just the previous week, the rival Browns actually beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though the Steelers were playing pretty much all of their backups, since they did end up winning their division and locking it in. But this game turned out to be an absolute slaughter, and the Browns ended up winning 48-37, but the score was not that close, especially since in the first quarter, the Browns came out the gate scoring 28-0 after 15 minutes of football, mainly led by their running game with Nick Chubb, who ended up rushing for 76 yards and a touchdown, while Kareem Hunt ran for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the running game really seemed like it would carry this team, but Baker Mayfield also had an absolute field day, with 263 yards and 3 touchdowns, showing that he is the future of this team and he is a great quarterback in the playoffs, from what we have seen so far. And the Steelers were the main problem for this team. The Browns came out firing, and they really looked like a young, strong team who wanted to win, but the Steelers just looked sluggish and slow. Ben Roethlisberger threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, which might sound impressive, but he also had 4 interceptions, most of them coming in the first quarter. He threw bad throws, he had many of his balls tipped and intercepted, and he just really wasn't playing as well. And the wide receivers couldn't get open in the beginning of the game, and the running game couldn't get anything going. So the Steelers definitely have a lot to think about, especially since they started off the season 11-0, ended up going 12-4, and now lost in the wildcard round. And Ben Roethlisberger is not the future for this team, since he probably will retire soon, so they have to find a new quarterback. But on the defensive side of the ball, I don't think they really need to get that much, since they have a very strong defense. They just had lots of injury problems. But the wide receiver core is the main problem, because they were not able to get open, and they don't have that one wide receiver who is very good and consistent. They have some good players like James Washington and Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, but they need that one guy that can really solidify it. And I believe they also need to get some work with their offensive line. It is very strong, but they've also had a bit of injury problems, and the Browns were really able to get to Ben Roethlisberger. As for the Cleveland Browns, they are forced to play against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round. And by no means will this game be easy, since Patrick Mahomes has a very strong team around him with players such as Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and currently they are all some of the best players in the NFL. Is this game unwinnable? No, but I don't think they will have a very good chance of winning this, since the Chiefs are probably the strongest team behind maybe the Packers or the Buffalo Bills, depending on your opinion. But the Chiefs are such a good team that if the Browns win this game, they will prove that they are a real young, strong contender, and they have a very bright future ahead of them, and they can really build around Baker Mayfield, and they can keep that strong defense of theirs. Since they do have some injury problems to players such as Jack Conklin and Denzel Ward, who are both Pro Bowlers, and one of them is even an All-Pro, but they have a good future ahead of them, and if they beat the Chiefs, they'll be very impressive, even though I highly doubt that. Now, with that being said, that's all with this video. This has been AC Analysis talking about a recap of the entire NFL wildcard round. And there were some amazing games, and I hope you guys all had an amazing time watching it. But now, if you guys enjoy consistent football like this, like and subscribe would be really helpful. We're on the road to 100 subs, and every sub helps. And if you guys want to shout out, make sure to comment down below, and we can help all of our channels grow together. Thank you guys so much for reaching this point of the video. See you next time.